Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Soul Ecosystem Podcast, your favorite podcast for all things soul contracts, subconscious programs, past lives, reincarnation, all that jazz. It is 2025. Happy New Year. This is the first episode of the new year, and there are some changes that need to be made. My business feels like it's asking for some changes. It's asking for some growth and involvement. So I'm going to be shedding some skin. I'm going to be shedding a lot of skin. It is the year of the snake, after all, right? In the Chinese zodiac. I got my snaky snake cup here, and I am ready for transformation. That is the theme of 2025 for everybody. 2025 is essentially that summer between high school and going off to college where you have to transform into an adult for the first time and make your own choices. And all of a sudden you have all this responsibility and people treat you like an adult and no longer baby you. There's that level of accountability that 2025 is bringing to the table. It's a little nerve-wracking because you got to put on your big girl panties and start kicking butt. I don't know if you guys feel that, but I think we're definitely going to be held to a higher standard this year than we were before. And I feel like women are used to that. Women are used to always having to be the bigger person and take the high road. But I think this is the universe's way of completely making us lean into trust and knowing that everything that happens, whatever happens, always happens for our good and is only going to bring good things for us. So the changes that I am going to be making in my business, I've already announced a few of them on my Instagram, Anna Rising Official. It is not going to be Anna Rising Official anymore. I am going to be saying goodbye to Anna Rising. I think I'm still going to be holding on to that as my pen name. But that was kind of a version of myself that I created when I was going through, what was it, the 9 circles? Is there 9 circles of hell in Dante's Inferno? And I wanted so desperately to rise above it. And Anna Rising was born. I wanted it not to affect me. I wanted to have that level of Matthew McConaughey energy where you just are in the present moment, you go with the flow, and it's like this totally zen energy. I think a person naturally gets to that point when enough stuff hits the fan all at once. There's this panic that sets in at first, and then it's like, you know what, this is happening. I could fight it, or I could sit back and enjoy it. And I think 2025 is going to be a lot like that. So we are going to buckle in, hunker down, and enjoy it. Just imagine yourself drinking tea while the rest of the world is on fire. So, along with saying goodbye to Anna Rising, that was a long-winded way of saying that that's happening. My brand name is just going to be the Soul Ecosystem for now, but I'm a Gemini and a perfectionist Virgo rising and Virgo moon, so I might rebrand like a million times before I actually settle on something. So I wouldn't be surprised if you guys see me playing around with different color schemes throughout this year for my brand. But I am introducing new services. So as I've said many times before, the soul matrix modality is such an extensive modality. It's a combination of many, many different mystical teachings. So it is jam-packed with things that I haven't even began to scratch the surface of. One of the things that I have been planning on introducing is love and compatibility readings. And I am going to start doing that this year because the main thing that people always ask about is when money is coming in and when love is coming in. So we are finally adding that to our Etsy store. I opened up an Etsy store, by the way. This is my way of saying that. And I'm also going to add this service to my website, which is now thesoulecosystem.com. And the first person that purchases the love and compatibility reading is going to get half off. Just send me a DM as soon as you hear this, and I will give you half off for being the first person. Along with love and compatibility readings, I'm going to be launching mini courses. So, in the next few months, I'm going to be working on some mini courses in regards to the soul matrix. I feel like I'm going to have to do it in parts. And once I get enough parts of it together, once I make enough content for the different various sections of the soul matrix modality, I'm going to be able to combine it into one certification course, which I'm going to be running beta testing on. I'm going to be running beta tests on the mini courses and on the full certification course. I actually just had a really fun idea. I was wondering if any of my listeners would want to hop on to get a love and compatibility reading done. I think that would be super fun. They are going to be roughly 2 to 3 pages. They're not going to be very extensive. There is really solid information in regards to compatibility, and that's what I wanted to make this episode about. I wanted to give a little bit of a rundown of the compatibility reading in order to give you a sense of what to expect. But I'm also going to be adding my own intuitive messages for the couple at the end of the reading, as I usually do for most soul contracts and most readings, because it just naturally comes out when you're in somebody's energy like that. So without further ado, I decided to give you guys a sneak peek into me and my husband's compatibility reading. I was thinking about doing it on a celeb couple, but these things are so interpersonal, like in between people, that I think only a couple that's like the couple that's in the relationship is going to be able to say, yeah, that checks out or that doesn't check out. Now, if you're expecting it to say like, oh, you guys are super compatible or oh, you guys are super not compatible, the majority of the readings aren't going to say specifically yes or no. It's going to give you an idea of what you were meant to clear together, why you guys met, what karma is there, what you guys are meant to learn together, and if you guys can do the inner work together, if you guys can work together to grow as a couple. Even the most painful relationships could be really beautiful. Like, I looked up a past relationship of my husband's, his previous marriage, and when it was in the positive, it sounded ideal. It sounded like the perfect partnership. It sounded like these people just have this really charming, positive energy, and they're just on the go doing romantic things together all the time. And it didn't make any sense. But then you get to the negative, and the negative shows you what happens when people don't do the inner work and refuse to work on themselves and refuse to work together. But I'm not going to get into that compatibility. I'm going to get into my own and give you guys an example of what this is going to look like. One thing I wanted to note before getting into this is that I also looked up my parents' compatibility, and I found it really interesting that there's said that there's this gigantic age gap between them. And my mom is only 2 years older than my dad. Then I'm like, it makes sort of sense that it says that, because it was felt so much in the relationship, that age gap. I feel like it was an insecurity, and I feel like that's why it was coming up, because there was this insecurity that the female was older than the male. And you guys are going to find things like that. You kind of have to read in between the lines sometimes and to understand the energy behind what is being said. It is not always as straightforward as it seems. Either way, when you're in the relationship, it's going to make sense to you. So in regards to why did the couple meet? Why did me and my husband meet? Our compatibility section in our soul contract chart has the number 8 and 11. The energy of 8 tells us that there are certain tasks that we are meant to do together in this lifetime, and there are certain questions that we can only get answered, or we can only answer for ourselves when we are in this relationship. And that makes so much sense to me. So the number 8 energy says that the couple does so much things together. They share responsibilities, they share the workload, the mental load, and they complement each other well in business. And I have found that to be the case, very, very much so. He's trying to get his own personal business off the ground. I'm trying to get my personal business off the ground and turn it into our full-time jobs. And he's a human encyclopedia. He's a human encyclopedia, and he has this natural ability for like business advice. You could have sworn that he started like multiple startups or has experience in like law or something. His father was a lawyer, so that makes a little bit of sense. But in my husband's soul contract, he also has the millionaire program, so that explains the business savvy that he has, the natural business savvy that he has. And I would say we definitely both complement each other when we're talking strategies and business ideas. He's the one that's coming up with half of the things that I put out there, guys. He doesn't understand how soul contracts work, how the soul matrix works, but he understands how to sell it somehow. He's going to say I'm giving him too much credit. I already know. And now he's going to say that I just read his mind because he's going to be listening to this. Anyway, it says that we work very, very well together, which funnily enough, in the compatibility chart that I looked up for his previous relationship, it specifically says do not go into business together. So this is saying that we would work very well together in the same business, in opposite businesses, I think. And it says that we're really good at solving organizational issues, getting things together, organizing them. He's really good at coming up with a schedule for me, a calendar for me. We have this little whiteboard in our kitchen that he wrote down what I should do for every day of the week. Mondays are Xbox days, Tuesdays are Celebrity Soul Contract days, Wednesdays are Spirit Chat Wednesdays, and then Friday is podcast day, launching the new episode of the podcast. And he also wrote Gotta Get Down on Friday, because Friday is my least favorite song. It is the thorn in my side. It is, I cannot stand that song, and he knows it. And he's funny like that. So you guys didn't expect this to just be a episode of me drooling over my husband, but here we are. So for the second number, for the 11, that is in our compatibility chart, it talks about how we were brought together to teach each other full mutual understanding. It says that our relationship is full of heart to hearts, common interests, common views, and that we prefer activity to laziness and inaction. And I was like, well, we're really good with sitting on the couch sometimes and cuddling and just binging shows on Netflix, but I think both of us are very, very hardworking people. And it is very, very evident, especially in regards to him. I think he's the hardest worker I know. And in regards to full mutual understanding, I absolutely love the level of emotional intelligence and the level of something or other that he brings to the relationship, where he knows how to explain his side so that if I get triggered by something, and I get triggered by a lot coming out of a heartbreaking situation, he knows how to walk me out of that spot. He knows how to walk me out of there. He knows when it's time to kind of leave me be and let me simmer down, because I have this tendency to assume that something else is going on, that he's not really saying what he means, and that he's trying to pull something, and that's just all coming from past relationships, past experience. So there's a lot of projecting going on. And the biggest thing I've learned in this relationship is how to talk myself down from that space and remember all of the things that I know about this person, remember all of the things that prove that whatever I'm terrified happened didn't actually happen. So I don't know if that explained it well. I hope it did, but I'm not a therapist. So, how does the couple show up is the next section of the compatibility reading. And we have the numbers 8 and 11 again. And in this section, it says that this couple did not meet by chance. They have certain tasks that they were meant to complete together. And in this relationship, the partners are sympathetic to each other's mistakes and they go through a lot of trials and difficulties hand in hand. They're able to make it through together. There is no judgment, no condemnation, no despondency in this relationship. And partners are able to work together and have a great workflow and complement each other very well. And it actually says that this is an ideal alliance. I know we ideally would all like our compatibility readings to say that, our relationships to say that. But if it doesn't mean that you guys aren't compatible. It all depends on where the energy is at. It all depends on the individual people and how much work they are putting into themselves and into the relationship. Because, like I said, if it's operating from a positive space, it could be seen as the ideal relationship. But when it's in a negative space, it could be completely different. Now, I know that me and my partner are operating from a positive space because all of the positives are coming up. So when you open up your compatibility reading and you see that the negative is more so manifesting than the positive out of this relationship, you'll find that either both or one of the people isn't pulling the weight in a relationship. When I looked up my previous marriage, when I looked up my compatibility with my ex-husband, I expected to see a lot of negativity. I expected to see a lot of stuff. I expected it to say that there's potential for abuse. But in the negative, I saw programs that said that in this partnership, one of the partners may try to change the other. They may try to remake them and have this relationship mimic their parental relationship, or the opposite, have the relationship go the opposite way to avoid the mistakes of the parents. And to me, that said that that was the underlying issue, because I definitely felt that in my first marriage, I wasn't allowed to be myself and to be my own person. And I definitely felt like there was this pressure for me to be a specific way, a specific mold. And I'm going to take responsibility for that. I wasn't being myself. I was being what I thought he wanted me to be. And although it doesn't specifically talk about anything getting more sinister, more malicious, I think that that was the root of the issue. And it took my personal situation, that relationship took it to a whole other level because of both of our trauma, both my ex-husband's trauma and my trauma. It just got really, really dark and twisted. So this is kind of going to get to the root of the issue. If there's issues in your compatibility, if there's issues in your relationship, you're going to find where it's coming from. This isn't to say that, oh, okay, now I have the answer to what I need to fix. You cannot fix somebody that doesn't want to be fixed. If you want to understand why a relationship didn't work in a more deeper way, this would be the way to do that. But I wouldn't recommend it as a tool to try and fix somebody or try and change somebody that doesn't want to be changed, that doesn't want to evolve and grow as a person, and is perfectly fine being who they are. So if you were hoping for some closure as to why something didn't work out, a compatibility reading might do that for you. But yes, so we left off with how does a couple show up for each other? So after the 8 energy, we have the 11 again. And again, it says that we work very well together. We make daily efforts, daily goals to work together towards a common goal. It says both partners are full of energy. They love sports and activity. I wouldn't say like I'm a crazy sports lover, but I love UFC. I love watching people get their face beat in. It also says people in this kind of relationship usually have at least 2 children. They usually have many kids, but it's always at least 2. and they spend a lot of time together with the whole family. They love games. I'm thinking board games because we love to play board games together. And then there are some pointers on how to have financial stability and a happy relationship. Then the chart goes into problems and difficulties you may face inside the relationship. And then it talks about what happens if a couple does not fulfill the agreement that they've met for. So when you do not complete a contract that you have made with a soul before incarnating, we have the personal contracts that we make with ourselves, the agreements that we make with ourselves about what we want to experience, what we want to go through in life, what kind of parents we want. We have those personal contracts, but we also have contracts with other people. Some of them are very karmic. Some of them are karmic contracts that have to do with you experiencing a whole lot of stuff in order to teach you boundaries, in order to teach you self-esteem, confidence, worthiness. We are faced with a whole lot of pain when we don't want to change, when we get really, really set in our ways and really stubborn about things. It's really funny. I got a book for Christmas about North Nodes. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I posted it on my Instagram. It talks about North Nodes and astrology. And we did this thing where I started reading my North Node, like the characteristics of it. As soon as I said stubborn, my bonus daughter says, "Oh, that one's yours." So I definitely was very, very, very rigid. I was brought up in a very rigid household. I had very, very rigid views, and everything was very black and white for the longest time. I remember, and I regret this so much, I have a lot of people to apologize to because there have been times that I've cut people out of my life just because their views didn't align with mine. And looking back now and seeing how compassionate my husband is, it's taught me to have this level of love and acceptance and love without conditions to people that I have never experienced before, which is ironic because I grew up in a Christian household and Christians are all about unconditional love and unconditional acceptance until it isn't, until you are not living the way that they want you to, until you are doing things that they don't want you to do. All of a sudden, they can love you, but they'll love you from afar. And there's a lot of religious trauma there for me, I think, because it's taught me how absolutely dangerous that is and how that is not from a place of love at all. I think the message of Jesus was so misconstrued and misinterpreted. I think Jesus was an intuitive and he absolutely knew what he was talking about. And the only thing he's ever really preached is love, unconditional love. It's so important not to see the world in black and white. It's so important not to judge. So yeah, I feel like I have done that so much where I have become so rigid and so stick up my butt in the past that I had to experience something very earth-shattering in order for me to be like, okay, this is not the way we go about things. And that's what I mean when I say that it's cracked my heart open. I feel like I've said that in other podcast episodes. So if you guys find yourself in that kind of situation, if you find yourself in a very cult-like religion, or just in a religion that preaches love, but you realize that there's very, very little actual love going on, actual acceptance of people, there's only judgment and ostracizing people that don't think the way that we do, that's when it's time to raise up some red flags in our brain and start being like, maybe this religion that claims to be rooted in love is not rooted in love, but fear and control. That's what's gotten me stuck there for the majority of my life, I think, because you're conditioned to not seek outside information. You're conditioned to completely ignore outside information, outside opinions. And that is something that I'm going to be warning my children about because that's very, very dangerous. I forgot what part of the compatibility chart we were on, but I think we started talking about karmic contracts with people, and then it segued into religious trauma for some reason. Anyway, I hope that made sense. So, when you are no longer operating from a positive place, when you are no longer fulfilling the agreement that you made with each other in regards to this incarnation, here are some of the things that will start manifesting in my relationship. So there's physical aggression, disappointment in partner, fights, arguments, depression. Partners only see each other's shortcomings. That's for the energy of 8. For the energy of 22, it says that one partner is overly dependent on the other, either financially or physically, and they don't feel free. There's also this alienation that may happen where there's a limited amount of friends and no access to like outside resources, when you just need to like talk it out with a friend. And it feels like one person is lacking that freedom. There's a 6 energy where the relationship becomes very superficial. It's very showy. You're basically doing small talk with the person. You don't really invest in the relationship anymore. There's also a section where it talks about the weaknesses of the couple. And addressing this weakness is a little bit out of the comfort zone for the couple, in this case, me and my husband. We have the number 12 in that section, which means that our weakness is an unwillingness to change habits, which can result in manipulation or an unwillingness to take responsibility. So as long as we aren't manipulating in an effort to not have to change our routine, not have to change the things that we do on an everyday basis, and as long as we take accountability and take responsibility for our actions, we are going to be able to stay in the comfort zone. We're going to be able to have harmony in the relationship and peace. I didn't it feels like the compatibility chart is really short, but once you start talking about it, there's an absolute heck of a lot that goes into it. So I'm going to give you guys the last few sections of the compatibility chart. There's going to be recommendations on what you can do to be more in tune with each other, to be more harmonious. And one of the recommendations for mine, I want to read this one real fast. I know I just said I wouldn't. I just said that I'm going to give you guys the sections. But it literally says that you as a partner should do what you like and listen to your intuition, and you should encourage your partner in their endeavors and support them no matter how strange their ideas might seem. So this is very interesting that it's popping up for me right now, because I just read in that North Node book that I was talking about that my success depends on how well I support my partner in his journey, in his business, in his endeavors. So it's very, very interesting that it's essentially saying like nurture yourself, nurture your business, nurture what it is that you want to do, that you're passionate for in life, but also help your partner get to where they want to be too. That was very interesting. So that gives you a little bit of insight, like a 30% insight, I would say, into what you can expect in your chart. Sometimes important programs pop up. And by important programs, I mean the kind of programs that you see in your soul contract, special programs. Special programs in soul contracts are programs like the Millionaire Program, the Midas Touch Program, the Special Mission, the High Spiritual Unification Mission. They are programs that are out of the ordinary, that aren't very common, but are very important. And I'm going to share one of the special programs for relationships that I found. And this program is associated with the numbers 13, 16, and 3. So when you have that in a compatibility reading, it means that the relationship goes really well as long as one person is more of a teacher and the other partner embodies more of a student role. When that doesn't happen, when both partners are trying to be a teacher and trying to say, but my way is right, so you should do things my way, then things start to deteriorate to the point that they need more physical space away from each other. And it's actually encouraged that they buy a bigger house so that they each have spaces that they can go to where they can be by themselves. And it says that they should not run a business together. So yeah, that is a little look into the actual compatibility chart and how it's going to go, not the intuitive part of it. If I was going to be doing one for me and my partner, I would be looking into our past lives, and I have done that before. My past life with my husband has been very, very traumatic because the scene I would specifically see whenever I tune into our past life one is very, very heartbreaking. We had so much love for each other, and there was this moment where he had to leave. I'm pretty sure that he had to go off to war. And whenever I look back into our past life, I see this moment where he's saying goodbye to me and promising that he's going to come back, except he didn't come back. And it wasn't through any fault of his own. Knowing my partner, I know that he would crawl back from the depths of hell to get back to me. So something must have happened to him. And in that incarnation, I couldn't ever get over the loss of that. I'm pretty sure I remarried, but it just wasn't the same. I did not know that was going to be that difficult to talk about, but I guess that's how you know that it's a past life, because there are some some feelings there. Why do I feel like I get emotional on every single episode? I'm so done with myself. Okay. All right. So I guess that was me and my partner's compatibility. A lot to look forward to, guys. A lot to look forward to, because I personally would love to look into your past lives, you and your partner's past lives. I'm sure they're not going to be all as heartbreaking as mine. Be prepared to see some trauma, though. Be prepared to see some trauma. I think a little bit closer to Valentine's Day, maybe I could bring somebody on and kind of do a compatibility reading for them, a love reading for them, and maybe a love energy reading for you guys for your year to see what's going to come up in love for you. But I think that's emotion. But I think that's enough emotional baggage and heartbreak from one podcast episode. Thank you guys so much for listening. So yes, big changes are happening. You can now visit my website at thesoulecosystem.com. You can find all of my services there. I also have an Etsy shop called The Soul Ecosystem, where you can find my services there as well. I'm going to be putting up the love and compatibility service. So if you want to get that 50% off, be the first person to purchase it, and I will give you 50% off for being a beta tester of the compatibility chart. I'm going to try and keep this episode as authentic as possible and not cut out too much of the crying, but you guys really don't need to listen to me sniffle for half an hour. So thank you so much for listening. If you want to purchase your own love and compatibility chart, I will have it up for you guys on my Etsy store and on my website before this episode airs. I am going to be adding more services along the year because, like I've said, I've only scratched the surface with the extent of information that is the Soul Matrix modality. So I hope you guys join me, because there's going to be so much stuff coming, so many mini courses I hope to teach you guys. I want to teach you guys how to read your soul contracts, give you the soul contract basis, and I eventually want to turn this into a certification. I'm not sure how far ahead that is, because I would have to put in a lot of work, like months and months of work into that. But that is the ultimate goal. I feel like it's the perfect tool for intuitives because it gives you a breakdown of a person's soul before you even go into reading their energy. And it's like little tips and tricks that help you access their energy so much easier and then get all of the information that you need downloaded from their energy. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys are as excited as I am. My 2025 goal is to make this my full-time business, and with your support and encouragement and shares and reviews and comments, I can make that happen. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'm sending you all of the love. Please follow me on the Soul Ecosystem podcast on Instagram. And I'm changing my Anna Rising official Instagram handle to the Soul Ecosystem as soon as Instagram lets me. So you can follow me on the Soul Ecosystem too. Again, thank you guys so much. Happy New Year. Love you all so much. Have a great weekend and tune in next Friday for episode number 9.